penalties. Mr. Dettelbach, as an attorney, I'm assuming you know what a reliance interest is, right? Familiar with the term?
I'm not sure I'm in agreement with your characterization of
Do you know the term reliance interest? I'm not playing games here.
I'm not trying to either. I'm trying to be respectful. I'm in disagreement with your summary of what the
I haven't summarized it yet. I'm asking you if you know the term.
About what you said, I'm sorry. About
what is a reliance interest? You were a federal prosecutor. What's a reliance interest?
That exchange right there was exactly what happens when facts collide with talking points. One side kept throwing around buzzwords and half-truths, and Congressman Mike Johnson calmly started pulling the thread until the whole narrative unraveled. You could actually see the confusion set in when basic questions about the law didn't have real answers behind them. If you care about what these rules really mean for law-abiding Americans, hit like, subscribe, and stay with me. Let's watch the full clip before I give you the full breakdown.
From Louisiana, Mr. Johnson's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act is a law that provides important immunity to manufacturers and sellers of firearms from being liable when people misuse their products. There have been numerous instances, whether intentional or unintentional, of Biden administration officials and anti-gun advocates and even the president himself mischaracterizing that immunity provision that's contained in the statute. And I think the public would benefit from our setting the record straight on the issue. So, Mr. Dettelbach, as the director of ATF, do you agree with President Biden that this law's broad immunity means blanket immunity and that gun manufacturers are the only industry in America exempted from being sued by the public?
Again, I think the president has given numerous different times he's talked about this provision. Again, as ATF director, what Congress passes is what we deal with, and we don't do civil litigation in that sense.
So
that's not under our.
If that's true, and you're going to do what Congress says, then obviously you don't agree with the president. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but that's what that means.
I think the president has called on Congress to act, and what I'm saying is,
just answer this question.
I take what comes
as you interpret the statute, I assume you're familiar with the statute.
I'm familiar with the statute, but ATF doesn't do civil litigation liability in that sense. It's not.
Yes, sir. I know, but you're the director of ATF. You're familiar, for example, that vaccine manufacturers have some liability exemption for their COVID vaccines, right?
I actually am not familiar with vaccine law.
Well, okay. Most Americans are. Big tech companies are exempt from liability due to Section 230. You have any familiarity with that?
I've obviously, as somebody who reads the news, I know about that.
The point is the president has grossly overstated what this statute does. And since you're not familiar with the statute, apparently, let me tell you that some of the exemptions, the limited exemptions, are negligence, knowingly selling to somebody who's not allowed to have a firearm, knowingly making false records, that kind of thing. It is not a blanket immunity, and we need you to be clear about that because the president, intentionally or unintentionally, is misleading the public on it. Let me move to something else. The stabilizing brace rule, as finalized this year, is about set to go into effect in the 1st of June. There's been some discussion about it this morning, but I think most of the American people are not yet aware because the mainstream media is not covering this issue. But here's the facts. Due to ATF's unilateral and unconstitutional action, if you own a stabilizing brace, you're required to register it with ATF, turn it in or destroy it by May 31st, or you're going to face criminal penalties. Mr. Dettelbach, as an attorney, I'm assuming you know what a reliance interest is, right? Familiar with the term?
I'm not sure I'm in agreement with your characterization of
Do you know the term reliance interest? I'm not playing games here.
I'm not trying to either. I'm trying to be respectful. I'm in disagreement with your summary of what the.
I haven't summarized it yet. I'm asking you if you know the term.
About what you said, I'm sorry. About
what is a reliance interest? You were a federal prosecutor. What's a reliance?
Well, we don't use it in federal prosecution, but from being a lawyer, reliance generally, I think, from my days in contracts and as a civil litigator, refers to the idea that in contract law, when somebody relies to their detriment on certain kinds of matters, that they have some legal claims that they might not otherwise have.
Excellent. It's not just confined to contract law, but as a lawyer and knowing that definition, knowing the concept, I mean, does it concern you that for years, law-abiding Americans relied on the ATF's guidance in purchasing stabilizing braces, and now due to a regulation, not a law passed by Congress, but a regulation, millions of them are going to suddenly become felons?
First of all, the law doesn't either ban anything, nor does the rule apply to all stabilizing braces. The rule under the National Firearms Act helps define and clarify what the characteristics of a firearm
all
that
right,
would
but
be a
with your
short-barreled rifle.
with your
because there was
clarification,
inconsistency.
is it true or not that millions of Americans will be defined as felons after May 31 if they don't follow this new regulation? True or not?
I assume that people are going to either detach the weapons, follow the things.
If they
that
don't follow the
government-
regulation, they'll be a felon, right? You're a former federal prosecutor.
Yeah, and I will tell you that that federal prosecutions do not happen with respect to law-abiding people who can't have a criminal intent
Okay,
established. That is not a priority.
Okay, here's the problem we have.
But-
Here's the problem we have, okay? You ran for Ohio Attorney General in 2018. Your platform included gun control. We know where you stand, right? As recently as 10 minutes ago, Ms. Jackson-Lee, you couldn't answer or define what a so-called assault weapon is. You continue to not be able to do that or refuse to do it. It's clear that you came to ATF with an agenda, I believe, to infringe upon good law-abiding Americans' rights. And you're going to turn them into criminals with this regulation, and you seem to have no remorse about it. I'm out of time, and I yield back.
With respect to,
Gentleman yields.
I didn't ask you a question.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman yields back. The other Mr. Johnson from Georgia is recognized for 5 minutes.
That was Mike Johnson doing exactly what Republicans should do in these hearings. No fluff, no apologies, just facts and pressure. He exposed two massive lies in real time. First, the idea that the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act gives blanket immunity. That's pure fiction, and Johnson called it out cleanly. Gun manufacturers are not magically shielded from lawsuits. If they're negligent, if they knowingly break the law, if they falsify records, they can absolutely be sued. Democrats know this, but they keep lying because fear works better than truth. And watching the ATF Director squirm when asked basic questions was almost painful. This is the man in charge of enforcing gun laws, yet he can't even clearly defend the president's talking points. When Johnson pressed him, the answer was basically, well, we don't do civil litigation. Translation: don't ask me to defend a narrative I can't legally justify. That alone tells you everything you need to know about how inflated and dishonest the administration's rhetoric has been. Then Johnson went straight for the real danger, the ATF stabilizing brace rule. This wasn't passed by Congress. Voters never approved it. Yet millions of Americans who followed ATF guidance for years are now told they could become felons overnight unless they register, destroy, or surrender their property. That's not public safety. That's bureaucratic ambush. Johnson nailed the reliance issue perfectly. Law-abiding citizens relied on government guidance. And now the same government is threatening them with prison if they don't comply with a rule change dreamed up behind closed doors. The ATF director tried to dodge, downplay, and soothe with vague promises that law-abiding people aren't the priority. That's cold comfort when the law on paper says felony. Johnson wasn't buying it, and neither should anyone else. Enforcement priorities change. Administrations change. Laws last. Turning millions of peaceful gun owners into technical criminals with the stroke of a pen is authoritarian behavior, not regulation. And the final moment said it all. Johnson called out the agenda, the refusal to define basic terms, and the complete lack of remorse. No question left to ask. Just truth on the record. He yielded back because the point was already made, and it landed hard.